Hey Game Timers, welcome back. Kyle here, another episode of Game Time with Kyle. Hopefully no one was on the edge of their seats waiting for a new video from me. It's been a little while. I mentioned in my state of the channel address and favorite games of 2014 that I was unemployed then. Since then I got my previous job back working at a movie theater, and I've been pretty busy, putting in quite a bit of time there. And of course at home playing my own games, and I'm kind of working on designing a tabletop game that's been occupying a lot of time. So my apologies, just haven't got around to doing a lot of videos lately. I'm going to have quite a few uploaded here within the next couple weeks, though. Make up for lost time, and I have a couple of reserved, and some are edited, just never uploaded yet. So we're back, and I'm going to try my best to do at least a little bit more on an average uploads, like maybe once a week or so, something like that. So, but for those of you hanging on, thanks for having me back. Going to be talking about the Game Boy player today that came out in June 2003 here in North America. Came out in Japan a little bit earlier that year, and fun little device. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. Also, actually something very important to go with if anyone's interested in picking up a Game Boy player. I want to mention something very important as well. And at the end of the video, we're going to play maybe just a minute or two of some of these great Game Boy games, because you can play a couple different ones on the Game Boy player. So we'll do that as well. I also want to give a quick shout out. I'm going to try to do so in my videos now. YouTube channels that are much better than mine. Go check them out. Links in the description. This one's the NES Romancer. If you love good rock and roll and your retro video games, and I know I do, great channel. Great channel. Does some great guitar covers of retro game music and whatnot. And does some reviews as well. I don't think I've seen a review from him for a little while. It's been mainly music, but the NES Romancer, link in the description below. Rock and retro games, not much more to say. He has an amazingly great channel and great hair, so shout out to you, man. Awesome. Alright, so here's the Game Boy player. Like I said, came out in 2003, just a year after I got my GameCube. I got it, I think, yeah, it was June 2002 when I picked this up. I got this Game Boy player about a year later. When this first came out, probably within the first week or so. I remember them being brand new at GameStop back when I used to go there. So for me, it's that kind of weird to see the GameCube like this. This is a normal, GameCube. But I'm so used to, because once I got it, I attached it, and it's been attached ever since. So seeing a normal GameCube is kind of weird for me. I'm so very, very used to seeing the Game Boy player attached to one. So if you get a Game Boy player, this is super important. I want to mention this. Super, super important if you get one off Amazon, eBay, wherever you may find. This is the Game Boy player itself. Okay, that's cool. This is the main thing. But, if you actually want to use the Game Boy player to play, Game Boy Advance or, older Game Boy games, you need to have the power-up or startup disc, I guess is what it's called. This is the disc that goes into the GameCube. It lets the GameCube read and know that the Game Boy player is underneath it. It's hooked up. It has a Game Boy cartridge in, and it's ready to play. You need to have this startup disc. Here's what it looks like. I don't know how well that's going to show up. It's a little silvery, but you need to have this in order to play the Game Boy player. That is major. If you just see one of these online, no, you got to have the disc to go with it in order for it to work. So, can't stress that enough. Disc and the Game Boy player needs to be played. Alright, so anyway, we have it attached. There's a little attachment here. Simple enough. I have just a normal penny coin right here. You got some screws. You can kind of screw it in that way. It's pretty simple. If you have some longer fingers or some fingernails, you can kind of do it that way too. I won't bother with it right now. We're keeping this video a little brief. So, what do I need to play the Game Boy games? Once I have it, here's a cartridge right here. We just go right in. Nice little Game Boy Advance game ready to be played. You can use GameCube controllers, obviously. They work just the same. A, B buttons. They use the D-pad, the thumbstick or joystick works, and the triggers on the GameCube controller. I have this little GameCube Game Boy Advance adapter. I like to plug that in. I have the SP model right here. plug that in the back of the SP model, and when you open it up, it has the Game Boy player logo on the screen, but you can still use the, as you would normally. And you can use the Game Boy controls, shows up on your TV. I like using that route. The GameCube controller works fine, but it's a little weird for playing the older Game Boy games, but it can be used. So, and it's also, these are also compatible with the Game Boy Advance and the SP. Not older Game Boy models and not the Game Boy Micro. That won't work connected to this. So that's also important information you might need to know. So I think that's basically what I want to cover. Again, Game Boy player, you do need the startup disc. Need this. You put it in GameCube as you would any normal disc. Set it right in there. And once we power it up, it's going to detect the Game Boy player, and we're going to play some games. So, yeah, that's pretty much the Game Boy player itself. We're going to play Super Mario Land 2, just a moment or two of that. That's the original Game Boy game. Here's a Game Boy Color game. I just picked one at random. It happened to be Paperboy. And Game Boy Advance game, I thought that some people might get a kick out of this. It's the Mario Kart Super Circuit for the Game Boy Advance. So, just going to play a minute or two, see how they work, and take a look at the Game Boy player user interface. There's some fun little customizations you can do for that. So let's do that next. Alright, here we go, everybody. Got some Game Boy player. There it is. Super Mario Land 2. Alright, I'm going to show you some of the options. I can see the Z button is our options here. I'm going to hit the Z button. We can pretty much change the game pack. I'll show you how that works in just a moment. A timer, you can kind of set a time. If you can have the kids play, you can play for an hour, half hour, however many minutes you want. Screen filter, sharp, normal, soft. I pretty much keep normal. I honestly can't see too much of a difference in between, those. Controller, you can kind of map the buttons like so. Obviously, I like to keep LNR, the actual LNR buttons. Screen size full. A normal, just pretty much whether you want it zoomed in or not. I like to keep it full. And then the frame, a little tricky to see, when you have these gray areas here. But basically, frame, purple frame. There's quite a few. Actually, yeah, there's 20 altogether. We won't see all 20, but there's a gold frame. I'll show you some of the fun ones here. 20 is kind of just no frame almost there. Yeah, 18, fun little space themed, I guess, Cosmos. 17 is kind of this fun little funky frame around the picture there. Sort of a Tetris looking frame. That's pretty cool, actually. I kind of like that. Some old paper frame. Here's some flowers if you like some flowers with your Game Boy games. So camouflage frame. I think you can see it. So I always kind of like either the gold or just the silver frame myself. I'm going to stick with gold since this is Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. You can see kind of how it works a little bit. That Z button options there in the corner, that's always there. Like it or not, it's always there. Here's the game I've been playing recently. We need one more gold coin. But yeah, I mostly use... I might turn that down just a little bit there. My apologies if that was a little loud. Yeah, I just use the D-pad pretty much myself. A button is the A, B button's B, shoulder buttons, of course. Since this is an older game, you can also stretch it. You could on the original Game Boy. So, and yeah, we're playing, Super Mario Land 2. Actually, one of the best Game Boy games in my humble opinion. Right here on the nice, well, semi-big screen. This is kind of a just a medium-sized TV from my bedroom here. Nothing too special. But yeah, that's kind of how it works. Some fun stuff. There's a 1-up right there. So yeah, that's pretty much Super Mario Land 2, and kind of some of the options for the Game Boy player. Now, usually at this point is when I pause the video and restart it, but I'm going to show you live right away. Change game pack. I'm going to go to yes. And then I'm going to swap that out for a Game Boy Color game. This is that Paperboy game. I did not shut off the GameCube. I did not remove the startup disc. I just simply put the next game in there. And here we go for some Paperboy. For Game Boy Color. I think Paperboy is going to be maybe a fun little colorful background like this. Kind of looks appropriate. This game's a little bit easier to play with the thumbstick. I'm actually kind of enjoying this. Never was too good on the NES version. I like the NES game, but I think the if you want to play some good Paperboy, I think the arcade port's really a good way to go. One of the arcade ports I can think of is probably the Midway Treasures. I know that's available on like PS2, Xbox, GameCube. Midway Arcade Treasures. I'm not sure if it's on Midway Arcade Origins. That's sort of a mega compilation set that was released on PS3 and 360. That's a good version of Paperboy Arcade. But yeah, this is a Game Boy Color version of Paperboy, and pretty much is the NES port for the most part. So works pretty well. I like using the thumbstick here. It's actually a lot easier to play. I'm gonna have to remember that for the future. This was a good one to pick out. So I'm gonna pause it, and we'll play see one more last game in action. I got right here Mario Kart Super Circuit for the Game Boy Advance. I just put that in. There it is. Some of the options here. We should have just did quick run. Well, we'll kind of show off here. We'll do Mario himself. This should be kind of fun using the, yeah, just this first track's good. This should be a lot of fun using the thumbstick for this too. Keep in mind the Game Boy Advance SP just has the D-pad. So this should be pretty good. Definitely if you're a huge fan of the original Mario Kart on Super Nintendo, I think you'll feel right at home with the Mario or Game Boy Advance version. Very much like it. It's been a long time. I'm doing horrible here. Let's see if we can speed up a little bit. We'll just do a lap here or two. Yeah, I'm really loving the thumbstick for this. This is going to be good. So yeah, Game Boy player definitely has some great advantages over the just playing on the small GBA screen. I ran right into that. I wasn't even paying attention. And it's a small screen and the D-pad. This is nice to blow it up a little bit. I think it still looks pretty good. Even when blown up here just a little bit, I think it looks pretty good. Even better, a little bit better than the SNES version. So I'm not even using my items. And when I do, I use them horribly. Do some drifting. But yeah, that's pretty much Mario Kart Super Circuit on the Game Boy Advance. So thanks everybody for watching this video. Subscribe and like if you did like it. Always a pleasure having you follow the videos and channel. And don't forget to check out the NES Romancers if you love, or the NES Romancer, my apologies, if you love retro and rock. That's going to be a great channel. Highly recommended. And a great guy. Just super nice guy as well. And again, great hair. So, yeah, that will do it. Thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Happy gaming.